This past weekend, North American teams kinda shit the bed. And it's funny, I could be talking about pretty much any esport and I'd still be right, but there is something different. Over the weekend, North American teams at the League of Legends World Championships went a combined 5-13 in the group stage. That is the worst they've ever performed under the modern world system. It's a catastrophe, and it's got a lot of people asking, how do you fix the dumpster fire that is NA League of Legends? Alright, so why are NA fans so upset? Well, combined, NA teams went 5-13 in the group stage. That is a 27% win rate, which is the worst they've done in 5 years. But that's not new, right? NA has always been bad on the international stage, or at least that's how it feels, right? Well, that's not quite the case. See, actually, NA's performance has always been more middling than abject garbage. It's just felt worse for NA fans. Now though, NA isn't that far off from the LMS in terms of wins in the group stage, and they're not even gonna be a region next year. We're also within spitting distance of Vietnam, and they're a minor region. Obviously, this result has people memeing that NA doesn't even deserve major region status, and all the major regions are represented in top 8 after all 3 of them.
You have no idea what she's done to me now, you don't!
But it's also sparked an interesting discussion about how the hell do you even go about fixing this problem. The problem is kind of deeply rooted in NA League of Legends, between the server and the culture and management and coaching. The point is, there isn't really one clean answer. It's a super complicated issue. So let's bring up the issues one by one, and maybe we can try to figure out something when this is all over. So one of the big things that get thrown around about why NA isn't that good is their reliance on imports. And that's undeniable. Every single NA team at Worlds, and every team in the North American Summer Playoffs for that matter, maxed out their import slots. Which is to say that they're not developing as much homegrown talent. Not only that, but some teams like TSM and Team Liquid are technically running more than 2 imports since they have players who have been around so long that they don't count as imports anymore. And that's not to say that NA doesn't develop any homegrown talent at all. C9 has made a lot of headlines over the years for building up fresh NA players, but it's not quite enough. Obviously, the academy system helped, but I don't remember the next line. Obviously, NA has also added the academy system, which has definitely helped get some players into Worlds that we might not have seen otherwise.
The academy put my career on the map because I started out in Echofox Academy and I got the chance to play against Froggen very, very often. It was a huge learning opportunity, and I think since you have like the 10 LCS players always now, and then you have 10 academy players, if those players are taking their job seriously, they're always going to be able to improve a lot.
But clearly, the academy system hasn't done enough. It's gotten us players like Damonte, sure, but Damonte is on a team with 2 Korean players who, let's be honest, aren't landing spots in the LCK anytime soon. Developing local talent leads to players who can communicate better with each other, and it leads to hungrier players who have earned their spots on the roster, not sometimes washed up players who got bounced out of a league they didn't deserve to be in anymore. Then there's the other problem. Solo queue kinda sucks in North America. Between the fact that NA has the smallest player base, allegations that NA pros have attitude problems when they're playing solo queue, and the horrible ping, playing League online in NA is awful. The ping seems fixable, and listen, NA has the worst ping of any major region in League of Legends. It's an enormous problem for anybody who's trying to practice. Then again, it seems kinda lame to just ask Riot to build a new server so that NA pros can get better. And a new server isn't gonna fix the player base issue and the alleged attitude issue. You can't just throw a bunch of money at the problem and hope it gets fixed. Now, there are some suggestions out there for more radical fixes to the issue. Former League of Legends caster and team owner Monte Cristo suggested a million things on Twitter, including opening up certain regions to not count as import slots in the NALCS. While I don't necessarily agree with Monty, I understand where he and others are coming from on this issue. See, if you open up the NALCS to also include Latin American, Brazilian, Oceanian players, well, NA players are gonna have to work harder to earn their spots, or they'll be usurped by a really hungry player from Australia or something. An amalgamation of a half-dozen regions says that NA doesn't deserve to be a major region anymore. And maybe that's harsh, but maybe it's true. The issue is that Riot is probably never gonna let something like that happen. See, the LCS is franchised. And that means that Riot and the investors, which is say the team owners who have bought shares in the league, have a lot riding on the continued longevity and success of the NALCS, not the combination LA, SA, NA, and Oceanian league. There is another solution that's being brought up as a potential solution to NA's problems. make NA play best of threes. See, in the LCS right now, everyone plays best of ones all of the regular season and then best of threes in playoffs and international tournaments. The theory goes that if you make them play BO3s all year, they'll be better at best of threes by the time Worlds rolls around. And yes, European players are playing best of ones all year too, but clearly it hasn't hampered them in the way that maybe it's hampered NA, I guess. Europe also has a thorough system of feeder leagues, which get players from rookies in their local scenes to starting spots in the LEC. That's worked really well for them and has led to hungrier, better players overall. The issue is that NA actually did used to have BO3s, and one of the reasons Riot moved away from them was to increase viewership when things went franchised. And look, viewership matters a lot, especially when you have outside investors who are looking to make a return on their investment. But you know what also contributes to viewership? Players that win things internationally. Maybe I'm just spitballing here, but I have a feeling that if you have a league in which players go to Worlds and, I don't know, win something, it'll translate to viewership back in the regular season because all of a sudden the regular season matters. And look, the easiest solution to this whole problem is just to have more international tournaments, but I don't think Riot's cool with that one either. In the situation with more international tournaments, NA will be forced to compete or they'll become irrelevant. Eventually, they'll just get good enough to hang with the rest of the world. The problem is that if you have more international tournaments, less people will probably watch the regular season games because, well, they'd rather watch the best teams in the world instead of just 10 NA teams. On top of that, Worlds and MSI become far less special and might have decreased viewership, which again is something that Riot absolutely doesn't want. Alright, so there have been a bunch of solutions, and honestly, a lot of them don't seem super likely. So where does that leave us? Well, really, there's no clear solution. People can talk about player attitudes and about how coaches need to be tougher all day, but honestly, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I'm sure that the players who left Berlin on Liquid, C9, and Clutch this weekend are extremely upset, and they're probably just gonna grind it out. I don't know if that's the solution either. But here's what I do know. The fans are finally fed up. The conversation has reached a fever pitch, and if the players, the coaches, the staff, the management of the LCS doesn't do something soon, things are looking pretty dark for the future of NA League of Legends. You know, we've done this so clean that we don't have an end board. Devin, say something stupid.
Hey, man. No. You know what? No, I'm not going to give it to your...
I need you to say something so we have content for the end of the video.
The fact that you said say something stupid is enough of a fucking end board, okay, Daniel?
This is what I work with. You have to understand. Devin has a hair appointment.
No, I don't want... No! Please, God.
Devin has a hair appointment.